to a curriculum check-in. Hi, I'm Colleen. I'm an author. I'm a currently unemployed librarian, and I'm a mom. I am currently doing this year-long curriculum. I've made 2 videos about it so far. The first, how I planned it. The second was my first check-in. So this is gonna be about how the month of November went in terms of how much I got done in my curriculum. If you watched the first video, you know this. If you didn't, I'll tell you right now. I gave myself a year-long curriculum because I do have a lot of things happening at all times. I have 4 kids. I have a writing career, and sometimes hobby type things really get pushed to the side, which is part of the reason I made this curriculum, is I wanted to get back into some of my hobbies, but also why I gave myself a year, because I didn't want to feel bad about not being able to complete things on shorter time frames. And boy, am I glad I did that when we look back at the month of November. Technically, I'm filming this, I think today's December 9th, but honestly, I don't think I've done I've done one thing in the last couple days. So this really is what got done in November, and spoiler, not much. So this is gonna be a pretty fast video. Let's start with the subjects that I did really well in. I gave myself an assignment for 5 different subjects: history, lit, French, foreign language, science, math, and then I have religion, which is kind of within history, as sort of a 6th subject. So let's surprise everyone and start with math. I never finished my math homework first. I was making my daughter a scarf, and I finished it. So in the last video, you can see that it was really quite thick, or sorry, not thick, wide scarf. And so I ended up knitting it together on the side, or sewing it together to make it this sort of tube. And I'll tell you why. One, it was kind of too big for her because she is a small child, but also I left the ends open so that she can put her hands in them to warm them up. And she really likes the scarf a lot. She doesn't have it at school today because she brought it to school yesterday and then she dropped it on the bus. And she found it, but then she was terrified she was gonna forget it on the bus. So, which is fine, like, the bus is like a black hole. So I told her, just wear it at home for now, and then maybe she won't feel like it's as precious, in January. But that is completed. So step 1 of my knitting projects of the year has happened. I hadn't knitted with a very thin yarn in a while, and I forgot what a pain in the butt it is because this took forever. A scarf should take me like a week. So my next project is I'm making my other daughter's scarf, and I forgot to bring the yarn down. It's up in my room. She wants a gold scarf with black stripes because she's a big Hufflepuff fan from Harry Potter. And I got the thickest, chunkiest yarn. So I haven't begun it yet, but I'm hoping by the time I do my check-in for the month of December, which will be in January, that bad boy is almost completed, if not completed. So math was a win. Honestly, November really should have been called I focused on history and did some knitting, because I worked quite a bit on my research into the medieval time period, starting with that I found this amazing book. When I left off, I had read the first 30 pages of World Lit Only by Fire and really enjoyed it, but also realized that book wasn't going to cover the time period I was really interested in, which is kind of difficult because I'm really more interested in the time from 500 to 1000 rather than 1000 to 1500. And the early medieval period just isn't written about as much. But I was randomly at Half Price Books and I found this book. It's called Medieval Women by Eileen Power. And it's a woman from the 1940s who wrote this pretty short, let's see how long it is, 91-page look at life for medieval women. And let me tell you, this book is really, really good. And I've read, I think I'm on page 59. I'm sure I'll finish this in the next month. I have some tags on here of really important stuff. I didn't want to write in it, but I've been taking an insane amount of notes. So for 59 pages, I've taken 5 pages of notes. And honestly, the first 2 chapters, I took so many notes. The chapter I'm on right now hasn't been as specific to what I'm currently studying, which I'm not telling anybody because it's for a project and whatever. But the first chapter was medieval ideas about women, and that was so helpful. The second was the ladies, so it was about women living in higher class families, which I found very interesting because I do specifically really like studying women who become nuns, and you have to be from a high class family for that to happen at this time period usually. The third chapter is the working woman in town and country, which has been interesting, but has been slightly repetitive. So it's just, I haven't been reading that one as quickly because I've kind of feel like I've gotten the gist of it. And then next up is The Education of Women, which I can't wait to read. And then last is Nunneries, which obviously I can't wait to read. And once I read Nunneries, I'll feel like I've begun my religion homework, which is to research what life was like in a medieval abbey. Yeah. So I feel like I did a really good job on history this month. I've also become obsessed with this podcast called Gone Medieval, which has hundreds of episodes. And I found it because I listened to a couple podcasts this month also, just like randomly about different time periods. And one day, or different people, I should say, during the medieval time period. And one day I was looking for a new one and I found the Gone Medieval podcast. And I was like, well, I'll just go through their episodes and just add a few to my favorites to see if I find them interesting. And I'm not lying. I added probably 75 episodes to my listen to later. And I've probably already listened to about 30. It's been like the podcast I listen to when I'm doing dishes, folding laundry, driving in my car by myself. Like I've really gotten obsessed. And the hard thing is every single time I listen to a new episode, I'm like, I should write a book about that. I should write a book about that. I don't have time to write all these books, but it's been wonderful. So I've really been deep in the medieval time period this month. So now let's shift to some subjects I'm maybe not doing as well at. My science assignment I talked about would be kind of on hold during the winter. It is to grow 30 pumpkins in my garden next year, which I really want to do because I love growing pumpkins. And I did a good job, I think. I didn't do as thorough of a job as I wanted to prepping the soil. I did put a lot of decaying matter in the main raised bed where I am going to plant the pumpkins next year. I did put some fresh dirt in there. I had this brilliant idea. So we hosted Thanksgiving and we got our pumpkins for Halloween really late. I took my daughters, I think the Saturday before Halloween. Halloween was on a Friday. So our pumpkins were in really good shape in November. And I'm very much like a November is fall person, not November is winter. And so I was like, let's try to leave our pumpkins up for Thanksgiving. That would be amazing if we still have pumpkins up for Thanksgiving, which was kind of hilarious because we had our pumpkins up and most of my neighbors put their Christmas lights up because a week before Thanksgiving, we had a really warm day. It was 60 degrees and it's just that's not going to happen anymore. So everybody put their lights up that day. But I was gung-ho, let's keep the pumpkins. And then I had this idea that I was I had gotten some really interesting looking pumpkins this year. And I was like, why don't we put the pumpkins in the garden bed? And I was going to put them in a different, not the main garden bed. I was maybe going to put one there, but this other area I have and let them rot there over winter. And then maybe they'll just sprout their own pumpkin patch. Maybe they won't, whatever. It would be cool. Okay, so Thanksgiving, I cook all day, whatever. I'm exhausted the next day. I barely move. My husband and I were awesome. We cleaned our entire kitchen and everything before we went to bed that night. So we just could chill the day after Thanksgiving. He didn't have work. It was so nice. The kids didn't have school. I had kind of forgotten about the pumpkins on the porch. And then 2 days after Thanksgiving, we got 10 inches of snow. We had serious blizzard conditions, wasn't safe to really be out. My daughter, one of her best friends' birthday party was 2 blocks away in our neighborhood. And I drove her to the party because they obviously didn't cancel it. It was just for a bunch of girls in the neighborhood. And driving those 2 blocks was insane. I couldn't have imagined trying to drive on an expressway or an interstate or anything like that. And then I realized, oh my God, I have 9 pumpkins under 10 inches of snow. So the pumpkins pretty much froze. And then literally 2 days ago, 2 of my daughters were being real antsy. And I was like, I want you to bundle up and I want you to dig out the pumpkins and I want you to drag them in the garage so we can throw them away. And they got all but one. One is frozen to the step and it's exploded. And that's just going to be a problem I have to deal with. We're supposed to get rain tonight because it's 38. And so fingers crossed, the rain gets rid of all the snow or some of it, and I can scrape that pumpkin off my, thankfully our front step is cement, so I'm not gonna like damage wood or anything. Can scrape that pumpkin off that cement so that I don't have to deal with it in February. Okay, back to it. All I did is I read the squashes chapter in Monty Don's Complete Gardener, which honestly at this point, I felt like most of the stuff I had read already had given me most of the information in here, because Monty Don's not like a pumpkin expert, like he's a flower expert, and he's also more of like a UK gardener expert. But I took a couple notes, like I'm just opening my notebook right now to see how many. Yeah, I took like a half page of notes from this. So I have about 2.5 pages of notes. I feel like I understand it all a little better. And science is going to be on hold until January, the end of January, when I maybe start ordering some seeds. And that's okay. I knew when I did a gardening assignment, it wasn't going to be the whole year. Okay, so now let's move to the 2 subjects I did kind of fail this month. If I were giving myself a grade in French, it would be a D. I have my bookmark in the exact same spot I did when I checked in last. And I had said that it was kind of hard. Like I wasn't, it was just, I don't know why. Working on French hasn't been easy. It hasn't been easy to like sit down and work on French. I don't know why. All I did this month was review some stuff I already done. I'm so busy right now with writing work. And I think that that's part of it is these assignments are things I've been doing when the kids are at school as like a fun little thing for myself. But when I have so much writing work to do, when the kids are at school, like I have to work. And it's impossible to concentrate on French when they're home. Obviously, I can knit while I'm talking to them and while I'm sitting next to them, helping them with their homework. But I can't really like work on French while I'm helping a kid with their math. It just isn't working. My goal now for the month of December, I'm going to finish a big project in the next 2 weeks, hopefully. And then I have a little bit of breathing room. I think also there's been this like pressure because now I am suddenly going to go to Paris in January for a week, which is amazing. And I'm really excited. But I felt like, oh my God, I'm not going to have anything done. And that's okay. I'm not learning French to go on this trip to Paris, relearning French, I should say. I'm relearning French because I want to relearn French. And so I have to like not put so much pressure on myself. I want to try to finish the big lesson that I'm on, and then I want to try to start the next one. And honestly, it's going to take me probably a year to do 75% of this book, and that's okay. Lastly, who on earth thought the writer/librarian would have an F in literature? So my literature assignment was to read some classic books out loud to my children. Originally, I had said I wanted to do it on Sundays in this room, which is like our cozy room, and that I would maybe put snacks out and I'd read for like 30 minutes every Sunday, whatever. I've done that 0 times. I did pick the book Redwall and was reading it before bed to my twins. The older 2 just were not a part of it. My middle kid in November had this really big book report that she was super stressed out about. And she like has some trouble, like don't want to say she has trouble with reading, but like she doesn't really like to read. It stresses her out. And so I was spending most nights laying next to her as she read for 30 minutes. And then I wasn't really having time to read with my other 2, with my twins. She's not one of the twins. So after she finished one day, I was like, oh, I haven't read with the twins in so long. Obviously, they're still reading. We're still doing their homework and stuff like that. But we haven't been having like a cozy book at night. And so this was like 2 weeks ago. I was like, let's read. Grab Redwall. Let's read Redwall. And my one twin goes, Mom, we hate that book. So we're not reading it anymore. I was like, okay, I want this to be fun. I don't want this to be a chore. So instead that night we read like a little bit of Brambley Hedge, and like I think we read Waiting by Kevin Hankins, which is a picture book they love. I'm like, that's fine. I think I'm gonna have to rethink my idea of my lit class. I think I might be dropping, what do I want to call it? Classics with your kids, and picking up something else at the end of the trimester to figure it out. That's actually probably a really good idea. So October, November, December would be the first trimester. So I'll pick up a new lit class in January that I come up with that doesn't have to do with anyone but me. I think that's really the key, is that putting like an assignment on like my time with my kids was not a good idea. I definitely wanted it to be a positive thing, but it's just too hard with personalities. Like, I'm not going to force them to enjoy Redwall. Ugh, that sounds terrible. So we'll probably I'm just going to go back to my normal, like, reading them books they enjoy before they go to bed. And I will have to think of a new literature class assignment for myself, other than reading, 70 books next year and writing several books. So who knew? Right now, I would give myself an A in history, which is very much how I was when I was a student. I'd give myself let's say a B+ in math. It did take me a really long time to finish that scarf. I'd say I have a solid B in science. I have an incomplete in religion. I have a D- in French and an F in lit. And I'm going to tell you something. I never had a D- in French, and I never had anything under an A in lit. So this is all very upsetting. But there's my whole check-in for you. Hopefully my next one will be better, but I'm guessing it's going to probably be similar. Obviously, science is on the back burner for a while, so I'm not going to worry about that. I'm going to continue with my history stuff. Hopefully, I'll finally get into some of the religious aspects of the medieval period that I've been interested in. I'm hoping at my next check-in, I can tell you what my new lit assignment is going to be. And I really hope I do find some time to do some French. But I am thinking I'm not going to put a lot of pressure on myself. I think if I sit down and work on French 2 times in the next 3 weeks, that will be good. That will be really good. And so that's just where I'm going to focus my energies on. If you're working on a curriculum, in the comments, let me know how it's going. Are you doing better than me? I hope you are. And if you're not working on a curriculum, but you want to let me know that you made it this far without writing words, let's see. Let's do a fun little emoji. Oh, let's do, depending on what your favorite subject is, a book for lit, something historical for history, something scientific for science. And as always, I hope you're in the middle of a good book, about to start reading a good book, or about to start writing a great book. I'll see you soon.